So, any questions there? Now I can get rid of that. Any questions, comments?
Dan, I'd like to make a comment.
Yes.
I like the way you handled Nephilim. It's not well understood. You just kind of didn't commit, which is admirable because it's not well understood. And thank you for that. And by the way, very inspiring teaching. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's not that I'm not strong in my opinion, Dan, but I've learned years ago that sometimes it's just my opinion. So, there are things in scripture that I like to hold tenaciously when it comes to doctrines, when it comes to certain things, God, Yahweh, nature of God. Peter, I see your face. You've shared with me many doctrinal positions. I love that. I love reading all of that. But it's almost like, are we going to divide a church over what a Nephilim is? No.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I appreciate it. Thanks, Dan. Edgardo, you're up.
Yeah, thank you for the wonderful teaching, Don. It's really a good one because it's relevant and it's real that every day we are facing giants. There are a lot of giants that we are confronting with, and dependency on God is so important. Just like in Psalms 125 verse 1, it says, "Those who trust in the Lord are like Mount Zion, which cannot be shaken, but endures forever."
Yeah.
When you depend on God, you become strong, though you're weak in real life. But our dependence on God helps us to be strong. When you start to work in a particular place, you are like facing a giant. Doing mission in different places, you are like facing giants. And I know that you by yourself is always facing giant there in the United States, because right now you are being challenged. All of us are being challenged to really pioneer a work for the Lord, so that our family will be a part of it, because all of us really, just like the teaching of Laura last time, we really need to be belong, and we need to face those giants that in front of us right now. We need to gather believers in one place and establish a particular work there. That work will grow. It will continue to grow because we believe that we are being called to do so. Just like what Jesus has said, we are not the one who have chosen him, but we are chosen by him to go and bear fruit, and that fruit should last, a fruit that will last. In other words, there must be work, sacrifice, just like John Truita said a while back, making a sacrifice to start the work. That topic, Don, is very encouraging, because we will be facing giants. We cannot avoid facing those. But with the help of God, through dependency on God, we can come out a victor. Thank you for the topic, John. Very interesting. Very helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Edgardo. As you were speaking, something that hit me is, I think why I was inspired to do this is quit thinking about them as problems. Quit thinking about the things in your life that are interrupting, or things that are that you're facing, and think about it as a giant. Because if we think about it, if you put it as a giant, it's like, oh, well, wait a minute. David defeated a giant. Moses went up against a giant. All these people, it's like, I'm different. Now, maybe the giant looks different. Maybe it's got a different label on it, but it's not a problem.
He looked at it as a challenge, didn't he, Dan? David. Yeah.
It's a giant. And God's in the business of defeating giants.
Yeah. Sorry for talking over you there, Dan.
Yeah, no, that's
You
fine.
know, just that what you were saying then, I was thinking, well, David looked at it as a challenge, and the rest of them were all looking at it as a problem. You know, when standing back, looking at Goliath. So what are you doing?
And then when David did that, if you read those records, look at all the men, his mighty men, and how many of them defeated relatives of Goliath. And they were just the final remnants. But that Ishbi Benob and all these other guys, they were giants. They were sons of Anak and Rephaim and all that stuff. And so all of a sudden, well, wait a minute, David did it. I can jump down into a pit with a tiger. I can take this on.
And we can do each of that in our own lives. We face off giants within our families, friends, our network, the people around us, and they see us, facing off against our challenges, whatever it might be, divorce, sickness. Exactly. If we handle it in the right way, that's a great testimonial witness. Doesn't mean we're going to do it perfectly, but and that's where community comes in. Like you were saying at the start, community is so important. And I really appreciate having this online community where we can connect, but we need face-to-face community as well, and to grow our fellowships locally. 100%, both sides of the coin, in my opinion. Yeah.
All right, I don't know how to raise my hand on here. I just wanted to say I love what you said about David made a habit of inquiring of the Lord, and how Jesus says, "Remain in me." That really struck me, because so many times I think, like, or maybe it's just me, but like, it's like I'll go to prayer almost as like a last resort instead of it being the first thing I do. And because like I don't know if it's just how I grew up or like the way of the world right now, but like autonomy and independence is the opposite of dependence on Christ. And so just like that reminder of like, make it a habit, like, before you like, I don't know, do anything else, just like pause and like, pray and reflect on it, and just kind of, I think when Jesus says, "Remain in me," I think that's active. I don't think that's just like it's almost like he's calling us to stay in your walk and trust in him and be dependent on him and have that intimacy, because it's a relationship. It's not just, I don't know. That's how I took it. Is like Jesus, he wants us to talk to him about these things, but he, he also wants us to listen, so it's a give and take kind of thing. But I think what you said about like making it a habit was really interesting.
Yeah, and what I like about that too was one of those quotes, I think, from A.W. Tozer: "Dependency starts over new every day." And that's the habit. Every day you wake up, and it's just, if you got to begin your day with prayer, begin with praise to God, begin with acknowledging God. And I love the idea that I celebrate communion at every meal, because I break bread and I have something to drink. And that means 3 times a day I pause at breakfast, at lunch, at dinner, and I pause. I acknowledge the food, but I'm also mostly acknowledging Jesus and what he did. And that develops that habit of dependency. So thank you. Mr. Truitt.
Thanks, Dan. I was just thinking about how giants, what is their goal? And, I think about the verse, John 10:10, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But if you think about the giants in the stories in the Bible, typically what their goal is to, to capture, to conquer, and to enslave. Yeah. And if you then run that over to the metaphor, you can see it's kind of the same. Those giants in your life, they're trying to defeat you. and to enslave you. So maybe it's, I know, like an easy one to pick out is addiction. Certainly addiction is a giant in people's lives. Well, what is it doing? It's enslaving. And, the culture at large wants you to come be a part of whatever the culture's ideals are and to capture your mind. And, and so thinking about giants in our lives as trying to enslave us, and that we have very little power against a giant, that we, if you're dealing with, like, if you were to go into a fight against someone who's a lot bigger than you, it doesn't, you can have a lot of training in fighting. It's not probably going to matter that much. If they're twice your size and weight, and especially if they're trained to fight too, you're going to lose that fight. And so all these things in our lives that are giants that are trying to defeat us and enslave us and capture us and bend us to their will, that we we have to rely on God. We have to turn to God, because I'm certainly not, I think about what's going on in our country right now in America, that all of the forces of atheistic, relativistic, hedonistic worldview that permeates our culture today. Well, how am I supposed to defeat that, right? And but you know what? If I rely on the Lord and work with him, well, he can defeat it all day long. I'm reading a book right now that's about visions and dreams by Muslims of Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus will give a Muslim man or woman, dreams of himself. He'll come to them in dreams and visions and talk to them and convert them. And, that's a serious giant that you're up against, living in an Islamic country with Islam, and Jesus can just walk into your dream and defeat that giant. Greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world, and I think if we just capture that mindset that David had when he went out to meet Goliath, there was no doubt in David's mind whatsoever who was going to die on that battlefield that day. And so just make me think. Thanks. I appreciate the teaching. Yeah.
Good. Donna, I think you're next up.
Well, there's good thing I tuned in and didn't listen to my emotions tonight, because I wanted to go to sleep. Fighting some serious allergies, so I'm swollen and all the things that make you uncomfortable. Some of it is my fault. But I realized, today I was going to the Lord and I thought, no, I'm not going to say anything. I feel like such a peewee. And I was talking to the Lord and I said, Lord, do you realize how vulnerable I feel with my health? Do you get it, Lord? Can you meet me where I live? Are you big? I wasn't even praying for healing. I was just saying, can you talk to me where I'm at? Can you accept the place that I am at right now so that I don't feel so overwhelmed with life and responsibility? And the feeling of vulnerability before God was so intense that I felt the only way that I could really capture his love was to surrender what I was feeling and saying, Lord, in spite of my weaknesses, whether it's physical, emotional, at this one day at a time, this particular day, I'm not really sensing that I'm very strong. And I felt incredibly vulnerable, that the one thing that I could do instead of escaping anything was just let God love me in the moment. There didn't need to be a solution. There didn't need to be a big healing or anything, but you know, I never saw it as like the word giant, but you know, it kind of fits with tonight's teaching. You know, and so wrestling on and off, trying to lay down, trying to sleep, but just going to the Lord saying, I feel so weak within my physical body and my mind. And so you're going to have to be a little bit bigger. Yeah, you know, or expand your horizons and think about God's bigness, Donna. And I just really felt a sense of serenity, just peace, you know, and just being peaceful, just one day at a time. You know, it's not like these tragic scenes going on, but I just really felt like I kind of heard the Lord saying, you just need a lot of serenity. You just need to be peaceful, you know, as my child. Just be at peace with what's going on and rest in me. And it's just not this big crisis. But, you know, even that I had to pray to get out of my own way and trust that he could speak to me and meet me where I'm at, which is about relationship, which is the relationship with him on a personal basis. I mean, you know, but I just thought it was just so cool, you know, that you're talking tonight about giants and, you know, obstacles or whatever it is, you know, and then having to rely on the Lord, you know, to press in and get through the other side or whatever the need what it is at the moment. So I thank you for, you know, you shared tonight, Dan, very meaningful.
Thank you, Donna. Appreciate it. We'll let Greg go, and then after that, maybe we can stop the recording. So, Greg, do you have something to?
Yeah, well, you know, I came in really late, so I hope I don't say something that you've already said. I probably will, but you know, it sounds like it was a great presentation that I missed most of it. But anyway, along that line, God prepares us for defeating giants. Like if you think about David, he fought the lion to protect his flock. He fought a bear and he defeated a bear to protect the flock. And the Bible says that God was looking for a man after his own heart. And he looked at David and he saw how David was not considering his own self, but considering the, you know, the well-being of others. In these two cases, it was his flock. But God was training David. And then when Goliath came along, you see, David was considering all of his fellow Israelites. He didn't want them to become enslaved to the Philistines. He's like, well, God helped me defeat the bear. God helped me defeat the lion. I can do this. So when we have problems and, you know, bad things happening to good people and stuff, maybe God is training us for something bigger and badder. And so that, you know, that's one thing. And we think about Joseph too, the story of Joseph. He was being trained up too to run the entire country of Egypt. You know, first he was running the household of Potiphar, then he was running the prison. And then, so all these bad things happened to him, but yet he was being trained up for looking after God's people. And I'm not sure, you know, obviously David would have prayed before he went out to defeat Goliath. And that's the key, you know, when we have a giant in our life, is don't try and do it on our own power. Don't try and defeat that thing, whatever it is, but pray for God's Spirit and every day, you know, one day at a time. And it really does help. I can say that from personal experience. So I'll look forward to watching the part I missed, but I'm sad I'm sad I missed it. Thanks.
Well, it's recorded. So we'll let people clean it up and you can watch it. Well, let's stop the recording and then we'll